not everybody's going to hit a home run as they build a new machine type or try to innovate around the autonomy frontier. But I think a lot of them are going to have very good traction and become disruptive. I mean, one of our first customers in the ag space is a company called GUSS. And I think they're just an excellent example of what can happen and how that disruption can drive change. If we can go down a little bit of a rabbit hole, I'd like to talk about what I've observed over the last probably 5 years with some exposure to the orchard industry in California. And I don't know how familiar you are with that industry. It's, I hardly knew anything about it when I kind of first got exposed, but
yeah, Gary from GUSS was on the show. I checked about 100 episodes after yours, so he's on 284.
Perfect.
Yeah,
okay.
And I'm from California, so I have some personal exposure to that, but please talk, because a lot of the audience is not.
Sure. Yeah. So I just think it's really interesting, like what Gary and Dave from GUSS were able to do, right? Is, they were solving a problem first for themselves, which is always a great way to innovate. They experienced this labor challenges and inefficiencies with orchard spraying. And so then they were able to commercialize a solution, leveraging the tech stack that Mach has, and take it to the market relatively quick, right? I mean, I think we prototyped the first vehicle with them in 2016, and by 2018, they had a system that they were starting to sell it in a limited fashion. And then, since then, there's 200 some vehicles that have been deployed with this technology on it, which is really impressive. It's part of what led me to form Mach, but it's also part of the inspiration, I think, for why the orchard space, which historically has lagged precision ag massively, right? They don't have a yield monitor, right? There's so much there that is just kind of bare bones iron with no real technology integrated on it. And then now you've introduced full-blown autonomy. So you leapfrog the typical progression of precision ag, which is basic automation, gradually increasing the level of control that the machine has over itself. So now you just leapfrog that with GUSS, and now you've seen all these other companies pursuing that as well and saying, look, we don't need to figure out yield monitoring. We just need to make it autonomous, and we'll do that later, right? It's just really interesting to see that happen, and the impact that technology can have just on that one industry as a whole. I just think it's a really interesting case study to look at, not necessarily how GUSS did it specifically, but what were all the downstream disruptions that caused in that space. It's pretty exciting.
Yeah, I think GUSS is a great example. A lot of people know it. If you've ever seen a GUSS machine, you have a clear picture in your mind of what it looks like because it stands out, right? It looks kind of like an autonomous version of the Tin Man from Wizard of Oz a little bit, tipped on his side, right? Like it's it stands out. I think that's a great example too, because like you said, I could picture a lot of situations where somebody's like, this is a problem in my industry, in my corner of agriculture that needs to be solved. I want to be the one to solve it. I just don't have any of the technical capabilities to do this. Bring in Mach